Grumpy Grant. I hope everybody's doing all right and people are getting better. I know there's been a lot of sickness. Hannah had her baby, that's great. And there's, she's our primary pianist. However, it's pretty awesome. I'm very thankful that we have other people that can play. When Hannah first got drafted to play, gotten several resumes from people interested in the pastoral position. So we're reviewing those. We haven't talked about them or anything. The good news is normally in the past when we got resumes, they would be from kind of run the gamut of doctrines and stuff. And so it was rare that we got one where the people were actually doctrinally aligned with us. And so this time's a bit more pleasant because thus I haven't dug into them too much, but because I think they were generally, they came from David Cloud's thing. We think maybe. David Cloud put a thing in his newsletter. So at least from what I've looked at, they seem to be much closer to our church doctrine. So that's nice. It's fantastic. We can focus on the negative, we can focus on the positive, and since we've been through this a couple times before, Kelly and I at least, it's pretty awesome to actually have candidates. It's pretty awesome to have people to fill the pulpit. It's pretty awesome to have, it's pretty awesome to have enough money to pay a pastor, right? I mean, that's fantastic. How much yeah, the building is paid off. That's just, our church has been growing in different ways. I think that's been mentioned, not just in people. It's been growing in lots of different ways. But if nothing else, we got babies coming. So that's good. But yeah, really thankful that, to have a pianist and to have a music ministry, and just was thinking about that this morning, wanted to share that. So we're in Proverbs, the end of chapter 24. I just want to say, Proverbs is primarily about wisdom, but the other thing I want to point out is the fear of the Lord. And so for a long time, I've been hitting on wisdom, but I'm also trying to focus on the fear of the Lord because that's the beginning of wisdom. So, and then wisdom is knowledge, and then understanding, and then application of that knowledge. So it's it builds on itself. There's many times when I have the knowledge and I have the understanding, but I lack the ability to apply it properly. Usually when I'm arguing with my wife, unfortunately. So I had a discussion with her this weekend about how men always lose. And she's like, I hope you're joking about that. I'm like, well, I'm joking, but it's true. So it's like if you're arguing with a dude, there most of the time emerges a victor. Okay, you vanquished somebody in your argument. Not always. Sometimes you walk away, both thinking the other's an idiot. But usually, lots of times, if it's something that you can demonstrably prove, and the person's not, willing, is on arguing in good faith, you can actually have a victory, and so you have a conqueror and a vanquished. But with my wife, I said, it's not that you're necessarily this way, but most women, if you argue with them and you win, then they're upset. They're not annoyed that you won, although that can happen. They're usually upset. Like, you won, so you lost, though, because now you've got an upset wife. But we love our wives. We don't want them to be like men, that's for sure. So Proverbs 23:17, it says, "Let not thine heart envy sinners, but be thou in the fear of the Lord all the day long." We need to always be in the fear of the Lord. I was telling one of my daughters that a lot of people don't even think about God. And by that I mean Christians. They don't think about God on a daily basis. And that's just, you get in your routine, you get saved. When I got saved as a kid, young child, I pretty much didn't think about God very much until I went to church camp. And then there was lots of preaching and stuff and devotions, and so then I felt, I thought about God. I had conviction and all those other things, but then I'd go home and I'd go back to my routine of, we only had church. We only had church one time a week in the morning, so there wasn't a lot of preaching or anything like that to keep me edified. But it's important to keep God top of mind, shall we say. Pray to God constantly. I pray to God over lots of things that most people think are silly. I've prayed to God about helping me find something to watch on TV. Okay, and that's just because I'm in such a mode about praying. I'm like, there's so many choices now of things to watch, but I want to watch something that's edifying. Doesn't have a bunch of junk in it, and and that's if assuming I shouldn't be doing something else. If I'm doing something else, well, God should convict me and say, "Stop watching TV, you lazy bum." But it's important for us to keep God in our thoughts, our prayers, and in our minds, just as, what does God want? What do we do? And why am I bringing this up? Just because, with my children, I have two girls who just turned 18, and they don't know what they want to do, but, when I tell them certain things, they know they don't want to do that. So it's just trying to get people to understand. And maybe I sound like a broken record, I sound like I'm babbling, which is probably true, but you can learn this now when you're young, whatever age, or old, whatever age you are, or you can learn it when you're older, or you can learn it never and just kind of live a kind of a not super fulfilled Christian life. And my life has gotten better the more that I apply these things, the more I remember to trust God. My eye's been bothering me. And I don't know if you've ever had your eye bother you, but it's really, it's frustrating, okay? It's even if it's not like super painful, it's like somebody's just tapping your forehead constantly. It's just, and I get more and more on edge and on edge and on edge, and I'm already high-strung enough. But I'm trying to trust God through that because I know He's helped me. He helped me years and years ago with a problem, and it seems to be slowly getting better. But I had to lean on past experiences of God helping me. I know the truth, but when I want to be like, "What's wrong?" And throw up my hands in despair and stuff, I'm like, be patient. Pray about this. And if you need to go to the doctor, but I'll tell you this much, there's nothing wrong with going to the doctor, and we should do that. But when you're despairing about something and you go to the doctor, lots of times they go, that's interesting. And they don't know. And they'll usually prescribe you something. And if you're like Sheila Whiting, it'll probably make things a lot worse. But a doctor is not your salvation, right? He's not, he might help. But I've been to doctors who had no idea. And then my wife had a guy who operated on her feet, and he was incompetent. And then she goes to another doctor, and he's like, oh yeah, here. And he just fixed it. I mean, it required surgery again. But you got to put your faith in the right things. And, if you put your faith in God, he won't fail you. And the times that I've thought he failed me, he didn't fail me. I was angry at him, but he was trying to teach me something. And I had brought things on myself through my own behavior. So anyway, with that little mini sermon, let's get back to Proverbs. So counting the cost was kind of the last verse, and I just want to say something here. Verse 27, prepare thy work without and make it fit for thyself in the field, and afterwards build thine house. You're supposed to do things in the right order. And there's a saying, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And this isn't anything necessarily, I saw this at work. We have something, and it's costing us $3,000 a day right now. We just added this cost. So that's $90,000 a month. Well, that's not okay, they tell me. I'm like, well, yeah, I agree. That's not okay. But we didn't plan. You just said do it. And so we didn't have a plan, and so we did the best we could to do this thing. And after several months, we got something working, and we're like, phew. And then it's too expensive. Fix it. But it didn't work when we had it costing less money. So it's just this funny thing to me of this is common sense, but companies don't even do it frequently. And people fail to do it. So I would just, but there is such a thing as over planning. One of the other things we talked about was, since we have a new baby in the church, what are the requirements necessary to have a child? Well, really the primary requirement is being married. Okay, obviously the world has gotten rid of that requirement, but as a Christian, that's really, I don't know. I'm not going to say the only requirement, but it's absolutely the most important requirement. I would say you should be able to support your family, but people will take that support and oh, well, let's see, I need to be making, X number of thousands of dollars. I need to have a home. I need to have 2 cars. I need to have blah, blah. And they'll have this inflated list of requirements before they have a child. Well, guess what? Life doesn't work that way. It'll take you until you're in your 30s or 40s to get all those things. And then you got to have a baby. And technology is marvelous, but you shouldn't wait that long. That's my opinion. Okay? Feel free to be like, wow, I could do. That's just my opinion. Okay? So there's such a thing as over-preparing, is my point. You can under-prepare, you can over-prepare, and if you're under-prepared, you're having a kid without having a husband. And if you're over-prepared, you're waiting until you're in your late 30s or 40s to have a kid. So, anyway. But if you do that, I'm not going to say a word to you. Verse 28, be not a witness against thy neighbor without cause, and deceive not with thy lips. Say not, I will do so to him as he hath done to me. I will render to the man according to his work. 2 wrongs don't make a right. Where do I see this stuff? Even for Christians. Primarily on the road rage. I keep bringing that one up. That guy cut me off, so now I'm going to tailgate him. I'm guilty. I've done that. I still struggle with that. Or this person's annoying me and I'm going to do something, whatever it is. But the worst part is being a witness to the neighbor without a cause. That's just horrible. Deceiving not with thy lips. And as we know, it can, neighbor is more than just our literal neighbor, although neighbors is another place where this comes into play. And I actually have, there's another thing in chapter 25. And that's what you see in Proverbs, especially lots of repetition. So let me look here. I have something written down. Philippians 4, 11 through 13. Let's see. Yeah, I'm not sure why I wrote that down. But, there is a natural sense of justice. Like, this is justice. We got to get him back. He cut in line, therefore I must punch his lights out. Or he cut in line, therefore I'm going to run him off the road. Or he cut me off, therefore I'm going to run him off the road. We have this attitude, and I think this is opinion, I think it comes from elementary school, where you had kids cut in line, and if you didn't throw a hissy fit, they got away with it, and there was this mob justice. And so, who knows? But I think it's a very childish thing that most people are guilty of. I will render to the man according to his work. Yeah, so the other comment I wanted to make about that is one of my children has this attitude, and she has said this thing several times. It's like, I feel, this is, she says basically, I'm entitled to get angry about this. I'm allowed because this was an injustice. That's basically what she's saying. She wronged me, or this person did something, and I am completely within my rights to get angry about this and squawk. I use that term, Shane doesn't like it. Squawk about it. But I'm like, no, you're not. It's understandable that you're upset, but you control your actions, and even if you have been wronged in some fashion, it's not okay to get angry. And so trying to get this through her skull is a little challenging. I think I push it in and it pops right out. So God doesn't like that. He just wants us to trust him, leave it in his hands, and live our lives to be content. And this is why I had this written down. Philippians 4, 11 through 13, it says, Paul says, not that I speak in respect of want, for I have learned in whatever state I am therewith to be content. I know both how to be abased, and I know how to abound. Everywhere and in all things I am instructed both to be full and to be hungry, both to abound and to suffer need. I can do all things through Christ who strengtheneth me. And, that's a really mature attitude, right? Paul was treated pretty poorly at times, right? You want to talk about injustice? Yeah, look at what happened to Paul. So yeah, we just need to trust God and not be all about, this is unjust. Now it hurts, and I'll get into that in the next chapter. So your feelings are important, but they don't give you they don't give you the entitlement or the power or the latitude to act on them most of the time. All right, verse 30 through 34. I went by the field of the slothful and by the vineyard of the man void of understanding. And lo, it was all grown over with thorns, and nettles had covered the face thereof, and the stone wall thereof was broken down. Then I saw and considered it well. I looked upon it and received instruction. Yet a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to sleep. So shall thy poverty come as one that traveleth, and thy want as an armed man. So I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. This is guy's not taking care of his property. He's being lazy. And if you're a farmer, and this would be a form of farming, you got to do stuff in advance. You can't just be like me who procrastinates until I got to do it or there's really bad things that happen. I'm not always like that, but I do struggle with procrastination, like many of you. So what do I really want to point out is verse 32. Then I saw and considered it well. I looked upon it and received instruction. This person is observing. They're being wise as serpents again. They're noticing what other people are doing that is causing problems. And so what they are doing is they're learning from other people's mistakes. And that's what I've tried to do in my life, is learn from other people's mistakes, because I don't want to suffer. I don't want to learn the hard way, right? I don't want to marry the wrong person, or I didn't want to. I didn't want to get the wrong kind of job. Those are two huge aspects of your life, okay? Now, sometimes you got to do a job that you're not super thrilled with, and there aren't a lot of better options, and so that's what you do. There's lots of things in life that we don't like to do. I'm blessed that I'm able to do a job that most of the time is fairly, enjoyable. Now, I don't like getting up early in the morning. I don't like working 40 hours a week, blah, blah, blah. But I've got it easy. There's way more people, I'm sure there's people in here who have had way worse jobs than me. So I'm thankful for that. But it didn't just happen to me either, right? I didn't just have somebody hand me things, okay? I was blessed with a God-fearing father who wanted the best for me, and my dad taught a class called money management. And so he knew how to manage money, and he managed to raise 5 kids on just his salary as a public school teacher, which everybody knows teachers aren't paid very much. Supplemented through farming during the summer. And he sent his kids to college, to Bob Jones University. Managed to do all that. We weren't poor. Like, we qualified as poor. We qualified to get free lunches and stuff at school, but my dad didn't take advantage of that. He trusted God to provide. And he made things like going to Bob Jones, which was a Christian college, and I'm sure it was a lot better back when he went, back when I went, than it is now. I haven't looked up where they are now. But he did all that without going into debt. But there was something he did that changed my life. And he did it against his own better judgment. And that is, he basically bought a computer on credit. And that violated his money management principles. You don't buy things on credit, except for his rules are a house and a car. Now, Dave Ramsey would say you shouldn't even buy those on credit. But you need to be careful with credit or debt. But he did that. And my brother gave him a hard time because my brother saw my dad violating his own principles. But he bought that computer because he thought that I might take to the computer. And guess what? He was right, I did. I first learned how to play games on the computer, and then I figured out how to I had to upgrade the computer, and I was tearing it apart. And one morning he went up to get his message for church that morning. I think they were without a pastor for that period of time. And his message wasn't there because I'd swapped out the hard drive. And I was like, oh, whoops. His program was there. I just didn't know he had a message on the old hard drive. I'm like, I can put it back in. He's like, don't worry about it. I'll just write it up again. So, he did all these things and he blessed me. And so I'm very fortunate and God was very good to me. I'm not, and I know many other people have had far greater struggles than if you have gone through those things, then those are lessons for you. And then you can try to turn around and bless your own children by your working hard. And one of the things we need to remember is this life is just a short little bit. We just got to get through this life. And then we've got eternity. So even if you've got the worst job in the world, just be faithful and get through it. And that's easier said than done. I know. And I'm sorry for the preaching. But this is instruction. And, I was blessed. I observed other people making mistakes and, saw divorces. And even though our church was nowhere near as good as this one, it was a very, very wishy-washy Baptist-esque church. I did have the conviction of not marrying somebody who was not saved. And so I really only dated saved girls, women, and, finally married one. But I married the right one. So thankful I didn't end up with either of the others I dated seriously. So you receive instruction, and this is where the submission to God comes in. Submission is kind of people don't like the word, right? But submission just means recognizing that somebody else has power over you. You're submitting to their will. Do you want to move forward in your life without God blessing it? That's just crazy talk to me. And most people would say no, they don't. It's like, well, then why aren't you praying about this? Why are you ignoring godly counsel? I want people to make their decisions. I don't want to push them into it. But it's important to just recognize that God needs to be involved in every aspect of your life, and your life will be better for it. It's not like he's going to come in and then say, hey, you know how you like to drink Mountain Dew? Nope, can't drink Mountain Dew anymore. It's for no good reason. He's not he's not mean. I don't like Mountain Dew, but maybe if you've got diabetes, you shouldn't drink Mountain Dew. But anyway, all right, so chapter 25, verse 1. These are also Proverbs of Solomon, which the men of Hezekiah, king of Judah, copied out. Now, I don't care when people want to argue about this person wrote this book or that book. I want to hear to a degree, and I think it matters to a degree, but I don't want to ever argue about it, something that can't be strictly proven. And so I don't like to belabor this stuff, because all I know is it's here for a reason. God put it there for a reason. The whole book is inspired. But God did put it here for a reason. So it's the men of Hezekiah. So this does tell us there's a break here in some respect. What does that mean? I don't know what it means, but I do know God he didn't waste any ink putting things he doesn't need in the Bible. So even if I don't understand why something's there or what relevance it is, it's providing information to somebody. Verses 2 and 3, it is the glory of God to conceal a thing, but the honor of kings to search out a matter. The heaven for height and the earth for depth, and the heart of kings is unsearchable. The glory of God to conceal a thing. This confused me a long time ago. And a few years somewhere, I finally understood that God doesn't want to just, he gives us some things, and it's really easy. The gospel's pretty easy. Sometimes it feels, if we go through the whole Romans Road with Kelly Whiting's additions and stuff, it takes a while to get through all that, okay? But the basic concept of getting saved is pretty simple. But there's other things in the Bible where God wants you to search things out. I mean, Liberty asked me yesterday about the fountains in Proverbs. She's like, I think it was, I don't remember if it's 4 or 5, but she actually said, like, in this chapter, can you explain the fountains to me? That was a fun time. So, because it has to do with, I'll tell you what, let's just go there. Might as well get it in context. But I bring this up because this is not a super obvious 5, verse 15 through at least 19. So this was not super obvious to me. All right, drink waters out of thy own cistern, and running waters out of thine own well. Let thy fountains be dispersed abroad, and rivers of water in the streets. Let them be only thine own, and not strangers with thee. Let thy fountain be blessed, and rejoice with the wife of thy youth. Let her be as the loving hind and pleasant roe. Let her breast satisfy thee at all times, and be thou ravished always with her love. Then it's like, and then it says, why would you go embrace a stranger? Why wilt thou, my son, be ravished with a strange woman and embrace the bosom of a stranger? Okay, we're talking about adultery, right? So what do the fountains mean? Well, in context, the important thing here is that this is why having the Strong's Concordance, and I love having it on my phone, where I'm reading, I can just tap on the word. Let, much like the word cleave, can have 2 different meanings. It either can mean restrain, or it can mean like to allow. So it's either a negative or a positive. So it's saying, let thy fountains. So don't, you can kind of add the word don't let to this, because the way we understand let is to allow. Don't let thy fountains be dispersed abroad, and rivers of water in the streets. Instead, allow them. Now, let is our normal understanding of the word. Let them be only thine own, and not strangers with thee. So this is saying, don't go sleep around with other women. That's what this is saying. And I mean, you can use your imagination on why he's using that terminology. Yours is as good as mine. So it says, your fountains. So basically, let thy fountains be dispersed abroad. It's saying, don't go sleep around. Let them be only thine own and not strangers with thee. Let thy fountain be blessed, and rejoice with the wife of thy youth. So, don't be like so many NFL athletes or NBA athletes or whoever who have 8 baby mamas. This is an irritating term. But get married, have kids with your own wife. Don't go commit adultery. Don't go fornicating. Don't. It's just, there's so many bad things that come from that. It's not just the emotional, the destruction of your marriage and whatnot. There's all sorts of STDs and, Magic Johnson got AIDS. Remember that? And then he's a hero because he's living with AIDS. I'm like, he slept with all these women. He bragged about it. Well, now you have AIDS. How is that something to be proud of? But in this messed up world, that's what we got. So, God wants us to work a little. What are some examples? Well, I think the parables are great examples because even though Jesus explains them, most people still don't understand them. And some of them are still debated and good men disagree. So Jesus explains them, but the pearl of great price. I tried looking this up on the internet, even though I was confident I knew what it meant. And it just is, people were regurgitating kingdom of heaven because that's, what it has in the context. It doesn't, they don't understand that do you know where that is? Thank you. I should know that, but I'm really bad with the actual references. Let's see, the tares, 11, mustard, treasure. All right, here we go. Sixth mystery, the pearl. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like unto a merchant man seeking goodly pearls, which when he found the pearl of great price, went and sold all that he had, and he bought it. So, sold all he had, that's Jesus giving everything to save the world. And then this is related to the mystery of the hid treasure, which people don't understand. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like unto a treasure hidden in a field, that which a man hath found, he hideth, and for joy thereof goeth and selleth all he hath, and buyeth that field. That's Israel, right? So he bought the entire field just to get that treasure. And that's great because that's John 3:16. For God so loved the world. People don't get that. Even though there's a bit of an explanation there, you gotta do the whole compare scripture with scripture. And I've been fortunate because Kelly has taught us, and David Cloud's Way of Life Ministries is fantastic. And so these, people build upon these other things throughout the years and the good commentaries. So mustard seed, that's a fantastic one because it kind of segues. I shouldn't have, that one just lit up for me when I first heard it. So in Matthew 13:31, another parable put he forth unto them, saying, the kingdom of heaven is like to a grain of mustard seed, which a man took and sowed in his field, which indeed is the least of all seeds. But when it is grown, is to be the greatest among herbs, and becometh a tree, so that the birds of the air come and lodge in the branches thereof. And if you just read that, you're like, okay, cool. But then if you know anything about mustard seeds, you're like, how does a mustard seed grow into a tree? So you go and you look at pictures of mustard seeds, they're plants. And there are usually many of them. And so it's actually, and it says the birds of the air. The birds is what Pastor Starr said, called them dirty birds. Is that what you said? Okay. So the birds are bad, okay? And now I'm spacing. Are the birds... Right. That's what I was going to say. Thank you. Yeah. So this is kind of a twist. What on earth? This is not. So so this is what has happened with the church is supposed to be a bunch of little churches, which is why I don't like mega churches, even large independent Baptist Christian churches. I don't like those. There's supposed to be a whole bunch of little ones. Instead, you have like the Catholic Church, and that, I think we can all agree, is pretty demonic. I just read, now I don't know if he did this ex cathedra, he said they're ordaining or whatever homosexuals. Was that ex cathedra or not? It's, okay. Well, whatever. That's what the Pope said. So, huh? But you don't just get that understanding by reading Matthew 13, right? You've got to read the whole Bible. You got to know what birds are, which Jesus explained, but you got to take something that he explained in that other verse and then apply it to this verse, and then having a little bit of knowledge about a mustard seed helps, and then having some knowledge about the Catholic Church and the prophecies and things like that, the Whore of Babylon. All these things, they connect, right? So, God conceals some things, and some things will be forever concealed, at least as far as we, at least until we die and we go to be with him. Other things, we can find them by searching them out, okay? God wants us to work a little. And that's okay. I mean, when I prepare for these things, sometimes I spend an inordinate amount of time on one little thing. It's like, I can't spend this much time on just this one thing. But, it's a real blessing, and that's one of the reasons why I teach, because it forces me to study, and, it's just a great cycle. And then I learn things, and I want to share them, and so I was trying to think why I'm not better at studying, in general. My conclusion is, other than just being kind of lazy, when you work a lot, it's work, right? And studying the Bible is work. Now it's not easy, but the burden is not great, right? I don't usually feel tired and stressed out after studying. Okay, sometimes, I go for a while and I'm like, okay, I need a break, but it's still work. So, but it's important, and it's really valuable, and it's edifying, and it blesses you. And if we can just make that connection and take that hard step, I think we'll all be better for it. But anyway, I'll pray to dismiss really quick. Dear Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for just blessing us so much. We just pray your blessing on the church. Pray for all the people who are sick. We just pray that you would heal them and bring them back. Pray for all the many prayer requests, Lord, the children, the baby, Elijah and Tucker, and just pray for those prayer requests and the other prayer requests in the church of people with issues who can't be here, people with ongoing health issues as well. And we just thank you for those people who are here today, and pray you bless the services. Be with Brother Mike as he preaches to us, and just always be with Brother Kelly and all the work that he has to do. We thank you for the ministry and